Good evening. Welcome to our tonight's evening, Holden evening prayer worship. Glad you could be with us tonight. We will continue this for the next 2 Wednesdays as we lead into Holy Week. So grateful for you to be here as we continue to get more familiar with this. If this is the first time you've been singing this, turn it over to Linda to help with some leadership on the musical part if you'd like to make an announcement quick. What part are you going to be leading on?
I'm going to be doing the yellow part. So Jolene is going to be joining you with the white part that you see.
Okay.
So this group is going to be standing. We're going to be serving as the leaders, and then you're serving as the congregation responding to those prayers.
Jesus Christ, you are the light of the world, the light no darkness can overcome. Stay with us now, for it is evening, and the day
May our prayers come before you, O God, as incense, and may your presence surround and fill us, so that in union with all creation, we might sing your praise and your love in our lives.
A Gospel reading from Matthew the 21st, taken from the Contemporary Message translation from the Bible. Then Jesus was back in the temple teaching. The high priest and leaders of the people came up and demanded, "Show us your credentials. Who has authorized you to teach here?" Jesus responded, "First, let me ask you a question. You will answer my question and I'll answer yours. About the baptism of John, who authorized it, heaven or humans?" They were on the spot and knew it. They pulled back into a huddle and whispered, "If we say heaven, he'll ask us why we didn't believe him. If we say humans, we're up against it with the people because they all hold John up as a prophet." They decided to concede that round to Jesus. "We don't know," they answered. Jesus said, "Then neither will I answer your question."
Thank you. All right, so I got a question. What is authority? When you think about authority, usually we think about this as being like the power or having the right to control decisions or being in control of a particular situation. So who are some people that you think of that have authority in our lives? Yeah. Parents, great. Who else? Teachers, sure. Yeah. The government. Who else? Police, yeah. Parents, great answer, yeah. Yeah. The president, yeah, good answers. Great answers. So I also think of doctors would have control in certain situations. Like if you're not feeling good, you'd want to go. You would agree with that, right? Doctors are definitely someone that you would turn to. When it comes to matters of religion, perhaps clergy would be someone that you would point to, right? You would hope that I'd have some authority. You wouldn't want your pastor to come up and be like, I don't know anything here. You want to believe that the people who are in the authority of whatever realm you're in or whatever sphere you're in are going to be able to be the knowledgeable person. You wouldn't want to go to the doctor and then just be like, "Doctor, I don't really like what you said. WebMD actually is a much better answer." I would trust my doctor over the internet. So I think about how important authority can be, certainly in certain realms. And how do we think about that when people, like, for example, if you go to the doctor and you're like, "I don't really like your answer," sometimes we question authority. And so there are certain reasons why we would do that. Authority might not just automatically be given to someone like it has been in the past. Speaking certainly for clergy, anytime another clergy does something that makes it into the news, it's usually not in the best realm. There's things that have happened where poor decisions or misbehaviors have happened. And then as clergy, you tend to speak for the rest, where you're trying to put a different spin on it and make sure that authority is not lost. So what about Jesus? When we think about Jesus today, do we think of Jesus as being someone with a lot of authority? To you, yeah, I'm hoping there's a lot of nods and yeses, right? Like Jesus, we would say, yeah, Jesus, you have a lot of authority. When we read about the things that you do in the Bible, Jesus, great, we believe you and we give you respect and authority. Now, what about in the story today? When Jesus enters the temple and starts to teach, does Jesus have authority? No. If you say no, why not? Yeah. He's just some guy, isn't he? Like, to these guys, they're like, "Who are you?" What's the last thing that Jesus did when Jesus was in the temple? And now think about what I talked about 2 weeks ago. What did I talk about 2 weeks ago? What did Jesus do when he showed up in the temple? Do you remember? He starts flipping tables over, starts making a mess out of everything, disrupts the whole thing. So if you're one of the leaders in the temple and all of a sudden he shows back up again, what is your first thought going to be when you see him? Oh, no. You're not on the list, buddy. Like, we're not gonna put up with this. Like, Jesus, why on earth do you think you've got authority after what you just did? And so for us, that was like 2 weeks ago we talked about that. In real time, this was probably a day or two before that, right? Like, Jesus is now coming back, and he's teaching people in the temple, and the people who usually have the authority in the temple do not want him telling people about God at all. I would argue that Jesus has no authority. Who does have the authority? Do you remember? Who was it? Yeah? Well, God has the authority, and who thinks that they are receiving the authority from God in this story? Yeah? Yeah, so the pastors, the leaders in the church would have been the ones with the authority, like the chief priests, the elders. They're the ones who say, okay, well, we believe this is something God has deemed to be true, and so we've granted that this is an acceptable thing. And they are saying that, Jesus, we do not see you on the list of credentials as having authority because of what you did last week. We don't really like that. Please don't do that anymore. Could you just, maybe go somewhere else? So, they ask him the question of, what gives you the authority? Who gave you the right to start talking? And what does Jesus say in response? He asks them a question. He doesn't answer their question and falls into their trap. He asks them a question. He wants to know who gave the authority for John to be baptized. Who is John? You guys know? Yeah, I know. You're like, I don't know. One of the guys who wrote a gospel? Not in this case. There's another guy named John. John and Jesus are connected. Baptism, right? When we talked about baptism in the fall, we talked about John. John is the one who baptizes Jesus. And so who gave the authority to John to baptize Jesus? Now, these guys who are the leaders in the temple know that this is a trick question. So they start to talk. They're like, oh boy, how do we answer this? What happened to John? I'm seeing some gestures of his head got cut off. Whoa. John the Baptist got arrested. He goes to Jerusalem. And what did I say 2 weeks ago? A prophet going to Jerusalem, is this a good thing? They are likely to do what? Get executed. So, you remember, you go into Jerusalem, you see the crosses when you come into town, you know that this isn't probably the best place. John, as a prophet, gets arrested and he gets beheaded in prison. Now, these leaders have a little bit of they realize they're in a pickle. So they realize if they say, well, John, he was baptized under the authority of God or heaven, they know that if they say that, Jesus is going to say, what? He was from God, and God gave the authority, and you didn't believe him? Oh, that wouldn't be a good answer, would it? But if they say, no, John's just some guy who's out there doing this thing with the water, and there's nothing really special about him, they also realize that they're going to lose their whole congregation, the whole audience. They're going to be like, but he's a prophet. And so Jesus knows by asking this question that they're not going to be able to pin down an answer because they see Jesus the same way that they saw John. And so here comes their dilemma. How do you answer the question? They answer, pass. We aren't going to get put on the spot by you because we don't trust your authority. So Jesus says, well, you're not going to answer my question. I'm not going to answer yours. I can imagine he's got a little bit of a grin on his face. Like, you guys didn't quite think this one through. Jesus hasn't fallen for their trap, yet he continues to act like someone with authority. So, in the next couple of weeks, as we start hearing this story, we're going to start hearing about what happens next, right? These temple leaders are not going to let him keep doing this. This is the story that's going to help them build their case against Jesus to say, okay, we can't let you keep doing this. And so in the next couple of weeks, we'll talk about this plot that gets hatched. How are they going to get rid of Jesus? Because they know that the people see Jesus as a prophet too. So how are they going to get rid of him without causing an uproar? How are they going to get rid of him without losing their standing and their power and their authority and they're in good standing politically. They don't want to mess with that. They don't want to riot on their hands. How are they going to get rid of him? We'll have to find out next week.
So together, we're going to sing Tree of Life. The composer that wrote this hymn also wrote the music for Holden Evening Prayer. So Marty Haugen, we're going to be singing his song, and the first stanza is always the same. The second stanza reflects the week in Lent that we are. So right now we are in Lent 3, so we're going to be doing the first stanza and then moving on to Lent 3.
Tree of life and awesome mystery, in your death we are reborn. Though you die in all of history, still you rise with every
During this time of offering, and then as we sing our prayer for the day, I'd like for you to put your minds and hearts on a person or people that are special for you today that you'd like to send a prayer up. Perhaps it's someone who is in need. Perhaps it's someone who you're rejoicing in something that happened with them. Perhaps it's someone who is sick. Just think on them and send up a prayer to them as we sing our prayers. Great and merciful God, source and ground of all goodness and life, give to your people the peace that passes all understanding and the will to live your gospel of mercy and justice through Jesus Christ our Lord. God, remember us in your love and teach us to pray. Serve the Lord.
Thanks be